What is up, party people? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamila. This is JemilaBeReadin because I do be reading. And today we're going to be reading books that were recommended to me by Booktok filters, okay? Lately on Booktok, I've been seeing a lot of filters where it's like, choose my next read, choose my next romance read, blah, blah, blah. And so, or like, what book am I? What classic book am I? And I wanted to use those filters to build myself a TBR and see if these books are good. You know what I'm saying? I know, like, reading books recommended by Booktok is really popular. And so I kind of wanted to do a spin on that a little bit and use these filters because I think it's fun. Also, quick little plug, if you're not already following me on TikTok, go ahead and do so. Okay, we just hit 10K followers. It's a good time. I really love the community that I've built on there. And if you want more like short form content from me, more because I barely post on this channel, let's be real. If you want more and recommendations and stuff like that, go ahead and follow me on there. All right, so this first filter that I'm going to do is pick my next fall TBR. It is currently August 19th when I'm recording this, so it's technically not fall yet, but one could never, be in a fall mood too early, especially since it's so hot and I want it to be cold. All right. Oh, okay. I got recommended They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. I think this is a thriller, mystery thriller. Cool. I'm interested in that. Another fall one. What book should I read this fall? Let's find out. I'm kind of scared of these options that I'm seeing. Amy Dawes' Blindsided. I have never heard of that. It seems like it might be a sports romance, which is not really my thing, but all right. Okay, the next one that I'm going to do is Which Queer Book Am I? So let's find out what I'll be reading. Oh, I got Honey Girl, which is a book that I have been desperately meaning to read. So I'm excited for this one. And the last one I'm going to do is Which #Booktok book am I? I'm scared for this one. Okay. The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I have been meaning to read that one, so I guess the time's now. All right. Okay. So we've done the filters. I have my TBR. We have They Never Learn. We have Blindsided, which I've never heard of. We have The Cruel Prince, and we have Honey Girl. So let's see how this goes. Howdy. It's been a minute, but I have finished 2 books. Actually, I DNF'd one book and finished another. The book that I DNF'd was Blindsided by Amy Dawes. So this is a sports romance. Soccer, I believe. Yeah. They say football a lot, which I know is soccer, but for some reason, like, my head was feeling very American. I don't know why. But this is about 2 people. I cannot recall their names, and I don't really feel like looking it up. One of them is a soccer player. The other is a seamstress, and they met because she was had to make clothing for him or something or another for an event. And they ended up really hitting it off, and they become besties. And it's been like about a year since they've been besties, and she's been trying to keep it a secret, at least for his sake, because she's fat and is embarrassed about that, question mark. They're not dating, and even if they were, there's absolutely nothing wrong with her being fat and dating a soccer player. So I only read a chapter of this book. That is really all I could handle before I decided to nope out of there. And so the conflict that arises at the end of this chapter is that the soccer player dude is tired of hiding this friendship, and he's like, come to this party. And she's like, oh my God, no, like, people are gonna see us together, and that's just gonna be so embarrassing for you, because look at me and look at you. And I'm like sitting here like, what did I sign myself up for? I don't like this at all. On top of that, that was the biggest red flag. That was like the last straw that made me quit after that chapter. The first one was the very first sentence, in which our seamstress protagonist says, "Crikey." And then something else about a horse. Like, I've always wanted a horse. She's watching a show, a Canadian show. And also she's British. So really, why is anyone saying crikey? I was instantly like, all right. And because of that, I was like, I feel like the author is not British. I did look up the author. She is American. So really, the slang, the dialect, all of it, it just felt very American, who's obsessed with the British and is overdoing it. You know what I'm saying? It was just, I couldn't. Do you know what it felt like to me? And I don't know if this author has read Talia Hibbert or anything like that, but it really felt like, you know, the language and the banter of Talia Hibbert's books, that is just amazing. It really works, mainly because Talia Hibbert's actually British. It sounds like it's attempting the same tone as a Talia Hibbert book, but it's just not landing. I feel like I'm being very harsh right now, but I just cannot stress how cringy this entire experience was, reading just the one chapter of this book. And it was too much. And then the nail on the coffin, the like weird embarrassment of being fat. And I was like, actually, I'm done here. I'm actually so good. I don't need to waste my time reading this book. I ended up looking at some reviews for this book, and one that I saw was that apparently this is like a big thing throughout the rest of the book, is her focusing and going through a lot of internalized fat phobia. And then at the end, when they get together, she also apparently loses weight. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm glad I made the decision not to read this, because this does not sound like it's for me. I'm good. I don't want to read a book where our main protagonist is just going through that. And it's not that like obviously, like obviously people go through that, but I just couldn't, and it just felt weird. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. So apologies that I've already DNF'd a book and it was already a flop. I could only read 12 pages, but it is what it is. Then I finished another book, and that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. And this was, I was going to say better than I was expecting, but I think actually the correct term would be more enjoyable than I was expecting, because it was quality-wise, writing-wise, about what I expected. I was not expecting myself to enjoy it as much as I did. Ultimately, this was still like a 3-star for me, but it was extremely readable. It was so consumable. I read it very quickly. In The Cruel Prince, we are following Jude. She has a twin sister named Taryn. She also has an older sister named something. I can't remember. And her older sister is actually only her half-sister, and she's also like half fae. But Jude and Taryn are both human. Anyway, older sister's real dad shows up from Fae World and murks the entire family and basically whisks the 3 kids back to fairyland, and raises them as his own. Anyways, so Jude and Taryn are humans being raised in a fairy world where fairies don't like humans. They think they're above humans. They think they're better than humans. Basically, any humans that live in this world are like servants or like really talented artists that are there just to like, I don't know, impress the fairies. Yeah, but she is going and learning, going to like school or whatever. And there's this boy, Prince Carden, who bullies her with his friends and stuff like that. And she eventually is like, actually, I'm not gonna take this anymore, and kind of fights back. And then also it gets really political. She ends up getting involved with another prince, not romantically, but like to spy for him and stuff like that. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. I was not expecting this book to be so politics heavy, which is part of the reason that made me enjoy it more. But I will say, like, you know, I get why most YA books are YA, but I don't understand why this series needed to be YA. I think it actually could have really benefited from being an adult fantasy. I just really wanted to get much deeper into everything. Like, I wanted much more politics. I wanted way more world building. Like, I don't really know that I understand what's going on world building wise, and like where everyone is, like geographically, but also like politically. Like, I'm not quite understanding like the political like connections and how each different group of fairy, different kinds of fairy, like all align with each other. I guess maybe I'm gonna continue reading the series, by the way, not for this video, but I will be continuing on the series, and I think maybe I'll get more there. But yeah, I feel like there just could have been more. There just could have been more on all fronts. Also, this book is written in first person present, which I know is everyone's least favorite POV to write from. And I don't mind it. It's not my favorite, but I don't mind. Honestly, like, I very rarely actually pay attention to like what perspective I'm in when I'm reading books, but I immediately noticed it because it was like, I woke up from my bed and I was like, oh, but even despite that, and I feel like a lot of the times, like, authors write first person present because like you're like in it with the main character. Like, you're learning as they're learning. You're like experiencing it as they're experiencing it. Usually, you know, The Hunger Games does that, and it really like puts you in there with like Katniss and everyone. You know what I'm saying? But despite the fact that this was first person present tense, I felt very detached from Jude for some reason. I don't know, like, I just didn't feel like I was really in it with her. I like, to be quite honest, I don't really care about many of the characters here. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm interested just to see what's gonna happen, but I'm not like necessarily rooting for anyone. I also don't I'm of two minds when it comes to this budding relationship between Jude and Cardan. I know it's like everyone's favorite enemies to lovers, but here's the thing. I don't know where I stand on enemies to lovers. I know I don't like it for the most part in a contemporary romance setting. So it makes more sense in a fantasy. But also, like, there's just like, it reaches a certain level where there's just a power imbalance that just never ends up working for me. And I just feel like the power imbalance between Cardan and Jude was just too much, and he bullied her too much. And there's one scene, spoiler alert, spoilers, I'm going to spoil something. There's one scene in the middle of this book where one of Cardan's friends compels, because that's one of the powers that the Fae have, is that they can compel humans, and one of them compels her to take off all of her clothes, and it's just like in front of everyone, is really embarrassing her. No, it wasn't that they compelled her. They made her eat like Fae fruit, which makes you all wild and susceptible. But anyways, they essentially compel her to take off all her clothes. They're really humiliating her in front of a bunch of people. And I don't know, personally, I view that as sexual assault. Like, she had no agency. They like severely humiliated her. Like, for me, like, there's no going back. Like, I could never love someone that just kind of like, even though he himself didn't do it, like, he was like watching it happen and like laughing, and eventually kind of like helped her a little bit at the end. But like, there's no coming back from that, in my opinion. Personally, it's just all of this, I feel like it always just goes a little bit too far, and then I'm not down anymore. Except like there was this one scene later on where she like has him tied up or whatever, and she basically was just like, oh, like, you like me and you hate that you like me. And I was like, wait. that whole scene, I was like, wait a second. I was kind of down, but I remembered everything that happened, and I was like, damn, I really don't know about this one personally. Also, like, there's just a lot of, like, again, I go back to this idea of, like, why this needed to be YA, because it's very clearly, like, chafing against, like, a YA limit of, like, violence and detail, and also, like, the sexual tension between them. And I'm just like, damn. And then again, I'm like, damn, I remember that these are 17-year-old kids. And it's like, I don't like that. Anyways, I will be continuing on with the series. Yeah. Hello. Sorry that the lighting is awful. Just is what it is. I haven't updated y'all in a while. And that's because I'm really struggling to get through Honey Girl right now. I am shocked. I definitely thought this was gonna be my favorite out of the books in this video. And so far, it's not my least favorite because it's probably the one that I DNF'd, but I am not having a good time. So Honey Girl, I feel like when it first came out, it was advertised as a sapphic romance. It was advertised as a romance book. And then as I watched reviews come in, I saw that, okay, no, it's not a romance book. It's definitely more contemporary fiction. There's not a strong emphasis on the romance, even though there is a romance in the book. Okay. So I came in with this adjusted expectations, but I was still, like, kind of shocked by how little romance there actually is. I'm, like, about halfway through the book right now, and we're just now starting to get more interactions between our protagonist and Grace and Yuki. Okay. What this book is about is following Grace, our protagonist. She just finished her PhD in astronomy. She is kind of at an impasse. She doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. She is feeling very burnt out, and she's kind of struggling to find a job, okay? In celebration of her finishing her PhD degree, she and a bunch of friends go to Vegas. She gets drunk. She marries this girl named Yuki. Okay. So finally, at the point where I'm at, she goes to visit Yuki in New York, where she lives. Grace lives in Portland, which was a plot twist I was not expecting because I live in Portland. And yeah, so she is, like, kind of going through it and decides that she's just going to go spend some time with Yuki in New York, get to know her, all that stuff, right? And that's about where I'm at. It's just, this book is exceptionally boring. I think that maybe this just isn't what I was in the mood for, but I'm also not really vibing with the writing right now. It's definitely, to me, I know there's a lot of people that like this book, so I don't want to fight, okay? Because I can get why people like this. But it does feel like it's trying a little bit too hard to be deep and whimsical, and it's just not really working for me personally. I also don't really care about any of the characters. I also feel like Grace's friends are not as good of friends as they're being made out to be. There was just, like, a bunch of, and her family too. I mean, obviously, like, her family is, like, not great. That's a part of, like, all of her issues. But there was just, like, 3 different times where someone from her, like, inner circle is like, don't cry, it stresses me out. And it's like, what? Who cares about you? Okay. Anyways, that just bothered me a little bit. So, yeah, anyways, there isn't much development between Yuki and Grace's relationship right now. Like I said, they just started hanging out, but then there was, like, a bit of a time skip. They're, like, already, like, super into each other, and I'm like, cool, I would have loved to have seen that develop. And Yuki is definitely giving manic pixie dream girl vibes a little bit. It's a bit strange. Don't really like that either. Yeah, I think besides just being very bored, it's also just, like, stirring up. It's, like, relatable in some aspects, because I'm just, like, sitting here waiting to find out about my bar results, and I'm just like, kind of also going through my own existential crisis. So there are times where I'm like really feeling what's like going on with Grace, but then most of the time I'm bored. So really my feelings have been bored or existential crisis. So I hate that for me. Hello. So I finished Honey Girl, and I'm giving it a 2-star. It really just was not for me. I didn't really enjoy the writing style. It was very flowery, very trying to be very metaphorical, really whimsical. It kind of reminded me of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue in terms of writing style, and I didn't really enjoy that book either. So it was kind of already a setup for failure. On top of that, I just thought that all of the characters in this book, including Grace, who is our protagonist, just felt very one-dimensional. We didn't really get much about them. We didn't get much in way of like character development or character work or just like character interactions. Like I feel like especially Grace's relationship with her two best friends are very, we kind of gloss over it. We like skip over like their origin story, I suppose. And I didn't really understand their friendship or why they were friends, especially because I feel like this book was like trying to manipulate me into thinking that they were like a really good friend group, when in reality, like I feel like her friends kind of sucked. Like they weren't really like supportive of her, especially in this time where she's like not really knowing what she wants to do. She's feeling very lost after being so go about her life for a long time. And like one friend just completely like kind of goes at her and tries to make it seem like he has like a harder life or something like that. And then her other friends, like whenever she starts crying, are like, don't cry, like you're gonna make me cry or something like that. Just like come on, like these are not really supportive friends. And then her relationship with Yuki was like almost non-existent, and I like had adjusted my expectations. I knew that this was not going to be a romance, despite that's how it was advertised for a long time. Barely any interaction between the two of them. Like I'd say maybe a third of the book is them interacting with each other, and Yuki definitely gives manic pixie dream girl vibes, and I'm like, dude, come on. It's 2022. I guess this book came out in 2021, but I'm like, we're doing this? And in a sapphic book too? Like, please leave me alone. And yeah, I didn't really get, their relationship development was so quick. Like, so much of it was off screen. It's like, I've been here for like a few weeks now and blah, blah, blah. We've gotten closer. And it's like, can we see that? Everything was just not good for me in this book. It just didn't really work out. Again, a lack of character interactions. We're so focused on Grace's head, which is like fine, but I don't know. I don't feel like it was like, it knew what it wanted to be. So yeah, 2 stars, unfortunately. Hello. I thought I filmed a clip talking about They Never Learned by Lane Fargo, but I didn't. So here I am in my car. I finished that a while ago, and I have to say it was a bit forgettable, although I really did enjoy the process of reading it. So like it was a quick, fun read, but it didn't really leave like a lasting impression. So this is about Scarlett. She is a professor at this university, and she's also a serial killer. She like goes after guys who like abuse their girlfriends or like, you know, essays them, all that kind of stuff, like shitty men. She goes and like murders them, whatever. We also have Carly, who is like a freshman in college. She gets like swept up with this girl and all this. Okay, anyways, so we have Carly and Scarlett. Their storylines eventually converge in a way that I'm not going to say because that's a spoiler, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it was fun while I was reading it, you know, support women's rights and support women's wrongs. But I don't really have like much to say. I mean, if you're looking for like kind of a thriller, it wasn't like super thrilling. It definitely was more like, I guess, dark academia. I'm not really sure. But if you're looking for that with like sapphic women who are murderous, then I think this would be a book for you. I think I'd maybe give it like a 3 or 3.5 stars, just because, yeah, it didn't make like a lasting impression. But if you're looking for like a quick read that's very seasonal, you know, we're approaching October now. So yeah, anyways, that's the end of this video, I guess. I'm so sweaty right now. It like randomly got warm again, and I'm just like, when will it be fall? Anyways, so yeah, I feel like this video was kind of a bust. I didn't really like love everything I read. I guess They Never Learn is probably my favorite one out of the bunch. I read The Cruel Prince and gave that like 3 stars. Honey Girl was 2 stars, and then Blindsided I didn't even come close to finishing. So what does that tell me? Booktok filters are okay, I guess. I don't know. Okay, bye. Have a good one. See you in the next video.